Welcome to the City Club of Eugene's October 11th, 2024 Candidate Forum for Congressional District 4. My name is Andrew Kallick, and I am City Club's president. We're coming to you from our home at the historic Wow Hall in the heart of downtown Eugene, and it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our speakers and to all of you joining us in person, online, and over the radio. Since 1990, City Club has been dedicated to our founding mission to build community vision through open inquiry. In accordance with our mission and purpose, we hope to help connect people throughout our community and across generations, identities, experiences, and perspectives. You are invited this week and every week to join us in this effort, to share your wisdom, to learn something new, and to take active steps to make a difference in this city and region that we love. Of course, we cannot do this work alone. A special thank you to our Platinum Community and Diamond sponsors. The Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce, serving as a catalytic leader in creating a vibrant and diverse economy that drives economic opportunity and well-being. Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. More information at uoregon.edu. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. And thank you to the City of Eugene and Lane County for their support as well. Also, a special shout-out to our gold sponsors, the Network Charter School, Hudson Dental, Lewis Cobb, and the Lane Transit District. And to our in-kind sponsors, KRVM 91.9 Radio, Dotson's Photography, Pack Info, and Kid Sports. With that, I'm happy to turn the mic over to KLCC's Rebecca Hanson-White, who will introduce the candidates and moderate today's discussion. Rebecca.
Well, thank you, Andrew, and City Club, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to welcome the candidates to the stage, and then I'll introduce the rules and we'll get started. So, candidates, you could join me on the stage. All right, each of our candidates will have a 2-minute opening statement, which was chosen randomly, with papers in a hat, just before this event started. They'll have 1 minute to answer each of my questions, and then 1 minute closing statements. So I will let the candidates introduce themselves with their opening statements, and we're gonna start out with Dan Balin. Ballin, I apologize. Also, is that microphone for them?
Hello? Hello?
All right, thank you.
All right. Go ahead and begin. Okay.
Yes.
Hello, world. I extend my appreciation to all. My name is Dr. Ballin. I'm on the ballot as Dan Ballin. I'm a man from Geronimo's people, the Apache. I worked for my tribal government for many years, and eventually I had to report corruptions and abuses to the Office of Inspector General. I knew there were risks, and I decided to take the bullet for my colleagues and my people. I was retaliated against as a federal whistleblower, and I became a displaced refugee here to Eugene, where this past summer I finished my doctoral degree while living homeless. I'm running for U.S. Congress because in 2003, I had a visionary experience of biblical proportions where I heard my older voice speak to the world, and I saw the coming of the Lord as a magnificent cloud cross with perfect edges. And I know I win this election, and I win with no money and no campaign team. Absolutely no votes ought to go to Val Hoyle. We all know millions of our tax dollars have been paid out for racial discrimination cases under her leadership, and I'm familiar with that behavior, and cases like those are hard as hell to get going, prove, and win. If Val Hoyle wins, Donald Trump and the GOP will wake up every morning and say, "What's for breakfast?" The corrupt and racist Val Hoyle and the Democrats who chose Representative Hoyle over an American Indian man who fought government corruption. Trump will say, "Mitch McConnell, pass the salt, please. Ted Cruz, pass the pepper. Lindsey Graham, pass the gravy, please." My 3 main solutions are: number 1, a massive market-driven civilian conservation corps; number 2, a reduction of federal power by giving the U.S.-Mexico border back to the Apache; and number 3, establishing an international city of peace in the heart of Israel.
And Justin, you're next.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. Thank you for inviting me. I love the Wow Hall. I've seen many great shows here, so it's truly a pleasure to be here. The Green Party is a working class party with working class interests. This sets us apart from the two major parties who are literally owned and operated by billionaires and corporations. You won't see TV ads from me or even any yard signs, but I will always do my best to show up, to meet with folks in person, to share my views, and to listen to their concerns. In the 2022 election, the candidates from the two major parties combined to spend almost $7 million on this race. For our elections to be truly democratic, I believe they should be publicly funded to level the playing field and let voters decide based on the issues and not have elections determined by who has the most money. Thank you.
All right, and Val Hoyle is next.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone here in the City Club, for providing this opportunity, and I specifically want to thank you for including all the candidates. I think it's important for multiple voices to be heard and for voters to have choices. That's why I'm personally supporting Measure 117, which is ranked choice voting. It's unfortunate it's only federal and statewide offices, but hopefully we can move it down to the legislature at some point. Now, most of you know me here. You know my family. We moved here in 1999 for a job running the international sales department at Burley Design Co-op, and both of my children graduated from Churchill High School. I've worked and volunteered in many capacities, from PTO to supporting pro-education candidates and ballot measures. My drive to fight for better education drove me to bring my background in the labor movement and unions, and also my 25-year private sector business experience, to the Oregon legislature to represent West Eugene and Junction City. I had strong support from both business and labor to become labor commissioner, and when Peter DeFazio decided to retire, I threw my hat in the ring and won a highly contested primary and then general election. We are the first class post-January 6th, and we take the burden to protect democracy very, very seriously. So I am running. I've been highly effective as a first-term freshman, and I look forward to earning your support today, and thank you so much for being here.
No, I'm sorry.
Changing the rules as we go. Elections are about choice and contrast, and this 4th District election is about necessary change. We are not getting what we need from our current Congresswoman. We don't have anyone standing up for us in Washington, D.C. People who live and work here are sick and tired of the dysfunction of D.C. and tired of corrupt, self-serving politicians who fail to deliver results. Our district is desperate for bold new servant leaders who will fight for this district and state. I'm a political outsider. I am not a career politician. I'm a very concerned mother of 2 young men. I'm a retired Air Force colonel, and I'm an advocate, a colonel who served as a JAG for 30 years and held a top secret security clearance. I am an advocate for the rule of law. I'm a lawyer who has raised the voice of the voiceless and solved problems for those in conflict for several decades. Our district is struggling with homelessness, crime, drug and human trafficking, and an economy that is utterly unaffordable for most Americans, most families living here. Voters are frustrated and disheartened by what they see in our communities and the fact that nothing improves and nothing's getting done in Congress. Representing our district now, we have a career politician under federal investigation for a classic pay-to-play scheme with a corrupt marijuana company. But if that doesn't bother you, let's look at her votes. She's voted against she's voted against American security. She's voted against veterans. She's voted against law enforcement and against our local small businesses every chance she gets. We can't keep sending the same corrupt career politicians to Congress and expect things to change. Now more than ever, we need servant leaders with real-world experience who will work to build consensus to solve the problems we face. This is what I've done my entire career, and it's what I'll do for you if given the opportunity to represent you, the good people of this 4th District.
So our first question will go to Justin Phillip, and it's about education. Students in Oregon are struggling with pandemic learning loss, low reading scores, and behavioral challenges. Many of our school districts are also struggling financially. Are there education policies that you would support at the federal level that would make a difference in students' lives here in Oregon?
Yeah, I believe graduation rates in Oregon have gone up just a tick recently. I think we're right around 82% of our students are graduating. In Eugene, it's a little bit better. In Reedsport, where I was at a candidate forum on Tuesday, I know I was the only candidate there on Tuesday in Reedsport. Graduation rates in our smaller towns are not as good. It was 50% in Reedsport. Schools definitely need funding. As someone who's done a little teaching myself, I know class sizes are very important, so we can do everything we can to shrink class sizes for teachers and give students more one-on-one attention. But outside of that, I think we need to really start thinking outside the box. The schools only have our kids for 7-8 hours a day. The rest of that time, they're at home, and we need to do more to support families. There's a lot of families that either cannot support their kids as much, or the kids are at the mercy of their families. But we can do more as a society, I believe, to support families and help kids get through school. Thank you.
And Val, if you could take this question next.
We currently in Congress, the Republicans have control of the House, and the chair of the Education and Workforce Committee, Virginia Fox, does not believe we should spend public dollars on public education. So she believes in private education. So that makes it difficult. I think there are a number of things that we can do, and again, it's investing in our local communities, fully funding special ed, the IDEA funding. That is important because we haven't done that since the beginning. We also should be continuing the funding for title programs, which means that we fund schools with kids that are at or below the poverty level, after-school programs, and definitely investing in apprenticeship opportunities starting in high school so that young people can work towards their journey card and their certification when they graduate to be able to get good jobs.
And Monique? Sorry, Monique, if you could take this one next.
You won't hear me blaming one party or the other for not making progress in this important issue of education. You think it's funny? It's a terrible tragedy that Oregon's education system ranks the worst in the United States of America. I'm running on a public safety, economic prosperity, and transparency and accountability platform, and this is all about transparency and accountability with our federal government. Our current Congresswoman doesn't understand that purse strings mean the purse of Congress is the money, the strings are the policies and the law that go along with that money, and the policies need to be enforced and honored at every level. The money needs to go to the classroom, to the teachers, to support teachers in educating children on reading, writing, and arithmetic. The answer isn't more money into another black hole where there's no transparency and accountability. Our schools need to deliver results and not keep out our elected officials that don't want to really take the time to look at what is the problem, what is holding our children back from becoming a competitive workforce, because that's necessary to the economy that we need. We need an educated workforce that can compete not only in Oregon and the United States, but across the country. And so the answer is not more money, it's transparency and accountability and what we're doing with that money.
Dan?
Education. I'm for a moderate and balanced approach to education. First, we need to prioritize critical thinking, where we teach students to think critically rather than solely focus on the content of specific subjects, and to teach students to see and understand multiple viewpoints without promoting a single ideology. Second, we need to compromise on sensitive and contentious issues such as sex education and discussions of race, while maintaining educational standards. Lastly, I support reasonable parental input along with professional research into what to educate and how to educate. I also believe we need to streamline higher education so people are educated with degrees quicker at less of a cost and start getting to work faster. Within my market-driven civilian conservation corps solution, there also needs to be a strong educational component that moves people forward in life.
Val will take the next, or Ms. Hoyle will take the next question first. Many people in the district are struggling to access health care. They have a long wait to see their primary care provider or a specialist, or there's no primary care provider or specialist in the area that take their insurance. If you're elected, how will you work to increase your constituents' access to health care?
So this is something I've worked on for a long time. Previous to the Affordable Care Act, I worked with the United Way, running their Healthcare Access Coalition. At that time, 21% of Lane County residents did not have access to health insurance. Since the Affordable Care Act, we've been able to get basic coverage to a lot more people. I do believe in Medicare for all, that every single person should have access to health care. And also, we have to have, and we need to be able to recruit medical practitioners here. We need to let them practice to the top of their licensure and their training, and we need to make sure that we have more housing. At the Bay Area Hospital in Coos Bay, they could not recruit a doctor because there was no housing. So we don't have low-income housing, middle-income housing, high-income housing. So we really need to work on that, and what I've done is bring our federal dollars back to invest in workforce housing, and I'll continue to do that.
Yeah, if you could pass it to Monique. Yep, thank you.
Right here in Eugene, I'm sure you're all aware that we've lost our only emergency room. The only one is across the way in Springfield. It's like walking into a third world when you go into the emergency room. There are ambulances, the ambulance companies are waiting hours to be able to deliver a person into the emergency room. We have a crisis with accessing medical care right here. Now, I'm not a party stamp. I don't agree with everything with the Republican Party. I don't believe in repealing the Affordable Care Act, but we should keep what works and keep what doesn't. We know from experience in Oregon that corporate monopolies of the healthcare system don't work, and neither would a government single-payer system work at all. We need to come together and work with common sense solutions using the information we have to improve access to medical care. Right now, doctors, nurses, healthcare providers are leaving Oregon because government gets in the way. The requirements to be able to stay and serve in the medical industry here is too expensive and unappealing. We need to attract medical care providers, which includes just the burdens they have as healthcare providers, but also the housing. We three are candidates that are running, not career politicians. The elected congresswoman has to talk about what have we done to improve housing. If that's the solution, there's been no housing developed at all, if that's part of the problem, which of course it is. We need to make it an appealing community to attract health care and have a robust, competitive environment so we all can access care.
Dan, if you'll take the next one, Dan will take the next one.
Our healthcare system is broken. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring," which is what my market-driven civilian conservation corps solution intends to do. The healthcare system is broken. While social assistance programs are only keeping people alive to be beggars, our system is efficient at being ineffective. There are many problems with our healthcare system. Spending on Medicare and Medicaid are going to double in the next decade from billions of dollars to trillions of dollars, and we have the poorest health outcomes out of all the developed countries. Obesity has tripled. There are roughly 200,000 deaths of despair per year from suicide, liver disease, drug overdose, because we have a mental health crisis in our country with a long-standing culture of poverty and government dysfunction. Our system is efficient at being ineffective. We see everything getting worse everywhere, yet politicians keep throwing money at it.
All right, this is one of the topics I actually agree with Val Hoyle on. I think we do need Medicare for all. The ACA is insufficient, but you know, it's not just the health care of the people here. Not very many people are asking our elected representative about Palestine, okay? We've got people dying in Palestine right now with the support of Val Hoyle. Democracy Now! Reported that over 50,000 tons of bombs have been sent to Israel since October. You know, the latest report I saw today said we've sent them like $18 billion in the last year, all to kill Palestinian children and women. And now Israel, acting with impunity, has expanded that war to Lebanon and the rest of the region. Okay? Adding more weapons and fuel to the fire is not going to bring about peace. And it's time we start talking about that, and it's time for the media to start talking about that.
And Monique, you'll take our next question first. Reproductive rights are a major issue in this country right now. None of the candidates in this race that I have spoken to have said they support banning abortion at the federal level, but if you're faced with a question of expanding abortion rights, removing barriers, or making it easier to access, where might you land on that issue?
Thank you. Despite the lies of our elected representative spending money, rolling out lies about how I want to ban abortion at the federal level, really appreciate this opportunity to tell the truth. Elections should be about truth. Progress begins with the truth. And I don't think I know the federal government has no business in reproductive rights in the conversation between a woman and her doctor. These are personal decisions best left, if they must be regulated, to state representatives. And that's exactly what we have in Oregon. Oregon's laws are clear. I have vowed on the record many, many times that I will protect Oregon's laws from the federal government, not just on these reproductive rights, but everywhere where the federal government thinks that they can roll in on the people of Oregon and tell them what to do in contradiction to the laws that are in Oregon and how we feel here. This representative is running on a lie on reproductive rights, targeting women who this is a huge concern for them, even lying about my personal experiences with IVF, which is the reason I have a beautiful family, and suggesting that I would block access to that medical miracle to other women. So do pay attention to the fact, why would you elect a person who's on the record as being a liar about a competitor, and also lying about the fact that she's under federal investigation?
All right. Dan, will you take the next? Yep, you'll answer that next.
Abortion. We live in a sinful world, a world driven by sin, and our world has been driven by sinful men. Women shouldn't have to pay the price for the failures of man's leadership in this world. The culture of poverty plays a significant role in the decision to seek an abortion. And the culture of poverty with my proposed market-driven civilian conservation corps solution, and we will end a significant number of abortions. I will protect women's right to abortion at the federal level. We have seen all the attack ads worth hundreds of thousands of dollars against Monique Despain, so she obviously is not the candidate of choice in this election. We have seen the attack ads worth hundreds of thousands of dollars against Representative Val Hoyle. Hoyle is a risky liability in defending women's rights. Millions of dollars in payouts and racial discrimination cases under her leadership, and she's playing the great white savior in the hunting and fishing rights of the Indians.
Right, Justin?
I support reproductive rights, yes, and I believe you've all seen numerous TV ads on this subject, but here we are talking about it again. I think I'll say this about Monique's comment. You know, leaving it up to the states is not enough. How about we just leave it up to the women and their doctors? But again, I'd like to pivot back to Palestine, okay? We've had, oh, I've seen what makes you cheer. Your boos mean nothing to me. Okay? Val Hoyle voted to defund the UN Relief and Works Agency that provided life-saving care to Palestinians over there, okay? Do their lives not matter? What about the women over there? 19,000 children have been orphaned. 15,000 children have been murdered, okay? This is with full U.S. support and the support of our elected representative. Okay, we need to do more to stop it, and we need to stop sending them weapons now.
So I unequivocally support passing a federal law to restore the protections under Roe versus Wade. We were told, don't worry, everything's going to be fine, they won't overturn Roe, and yet here we are. Women in Texas and Georgia and Idaho are dying, and it's wrong. Now, Ms. Despain said, I would never vote to end abortion, and yet she signed, and I have copies, the candidate pledge for the Constitution Party, which has the most extreme anti-abortion language. She pledged to uphold their platform and this oath. She's a lawyer. She reads contracts. She was in the military as a judicial advocate. She knows what an oath is. She signed it, and the fact is, was she lying to them? Is she lying now? Either way, I agree. She will not be voting on a federal ban because she's not going to be your next congresswoman. You can take that to the bank.
All right, and Justin will take the next question first, and that's about homelessness. All right. So, and this is a topic requested by a lot of KLC listeners as well. An increasing number of people in this district are struggling with homelessness and with housing insecurity. If you're elected, how might you work alongside the communities in your district to help people experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity?
I think this is a very complicated issue, and 1 minute's time is not going to be sufficient to address this issue. There's a lot of folks on the street for a lot of different reasons, and roughly half of all Oregonians are a paycheck away from being out there with them. I can tell you that I will probably do more than our elected official, Val Hoyle, though. Val was able to go back to the House of Appropriations Committee, ask for 15 projects worth $28 million. I believe there was not a single dollar in there for the unhoused and homeless issue in our district. Very disappointing. So we need to definitely do more than $0 on the topic.
And Val, if you'll take it next.
Thank you. I was very proud to bring $86 million back to this community. And when you get community funding, there are specific criteria that are set, and funding for homelessness was not one of them. So I was able to get funding for workforce housing. I also worked with Senator Wyden on the DASH Act, which expands Section 8 vouchers, which gives tax credits to home builders to build low-income and middle-income housing. The biggest issue is we don't have enough housing. So we need to work with local communities, because the answer in Eugene is different than the answer in Coos Bay or Reedsport or Lincoln City. There is 0.5% or less vacancy rate on the coast in Roseburg. We need to build more housing. The DASH Act that Senator Wyden and I worked on both helps people in funding people to get back into housing, and then to build more housing stock, which is absolutely critical. And then again, expanding the voucher program that will help people pay for the housing so that they can be safe.
Monique?
Well, the last comment was the height of political drama. This community is very diverse, as you can see from this panel today. Everybody in this community deserves representation. The oath of office for a congresswoman is the exact same oath I took every time I was promoted all the way from lieutenant to full colonel, and that is to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. While this representative wants to belabor reproductive rights for the 4th District was not an issue here, and the people voted, it's the decision of the people to have elected representatives that put the laws in place in our Oregon State
Monique?
Legislature.
Could you talk about homelessness?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on a secure border, she wants to focus on abortion rights. And so because of our non-secure border,
Well, excuse me. We need to listen to what the candidates
none of these
here.
people have talked to the mothers of people who've died from fentanyl poisoning. The mothers, really? Well, that's consistent with my travels across the 4th District, where everyone has been touched by the drug addiction problem in this community and across the country. 51% of the fentanyl is coming into this country through Arizona. I visited that border. Until I visited that border, you said we need that movement.
Monique,
The drug addiction problem is a big part of the homelessness. The mental health problems is a huge part of the homelessness problem. Until we get serious about getting on the same page and solving that problem,
Mr.
you don't
Spain-
build a house
Mr.
and give the keys to a fentanyl addict, courtesy of our tax dollars. Ridiculous.
Mr. Spain, you are out of time. All right, and Dan, we're going to have him ask the next first question.
Homelessness. I'm homeless right now. I'm living in a whole bunch of U.S. Army tents with 125 other homeless. I see what's going on from the bottom right here in Eugene. I know what's going on with the system. My solution of a market-driven civilian conservation corps can begin here in the 4th District, but it's desperately needed in all 50 states. We have too many people homeless, too many in poverty, too many incarcerated. All those billions of dollars spent on just keeping them alive to be beggars, it's an awful waste of money. We need to invest smart. This solution will help reduce wasteful spending and compassion burnout at the local and state levels. The CCC is about true purpose, achievements, real contributions, and will help build infrastructure, environmental conservation, disaster preparedness, wildfire management, and more. It will help this population become disciplined, self-sufficient, proud, and ready for any all-out war and the consequences of climate change when that day comes, and the millions upon millions in this population will not suffer and die first, or be a liability to this nation. Sive pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. This is one of the best ways to do it. Vote Ballin.
And Dan, you'll take the next question first. I apologize, I got out of order. You should have taken the last one first. Really quick, before we go to the next question, I do appreciate the audience participation, but when we broadcast this, the radio audience also needs to be able to hear the candidates answer the full questions. And I'll also ask candidates to do their best to focus on the topics of each of these questions, because we've polled KLC listeners. I've talked to a lot of people. There's been a lot of thought that went into each of these questions. And I also know that people want to hear the candidates' answers to these questions. So with that, we'll move on to the next question, and thank you, everyone. I will enforce the time limits better. Thank you. All right, Dan, I'm going to have you answer our next question. And it's about Palestine. Amazing. All right. So, Dan, as you've heard here today and from a lot of young voters in this district, they are very concerned about the war in Gaza. And so I'd like to ask each candidate to share, their stance on the war in Gaza right now.
This is about international security. This is about national security. China is ready to wage an economic and cyber war to force Taiwan to surrender. China and Russia have been doing joint military exercises, and they're friends with North Korea, who is testing nuclear weapons. We are essentially fighting Russia and Ukraine, where ground has been gained in Russia. Russia is tied to Iran, who's waging an all-out war with Israel that we are being drawn into. And when Iran develops a nuclear weapon, we'll probably need to invade Iran like we invaded Iraq in 2003. We will not let anyone wipe Israel from the map. As an American Indian, I relate to Israel and what it feels like when a whole bunch of people want to wipe you out. I declare the United Nations to be impotent, and we need to do away with the United Nations like we did away with the League of Nations. And in its place, we need to establish an international city of peace in the heart of Israel.
Justin, if you'll take the next.
I'm really surprised Dan missed the connection between the Palestinian people and the Native American people here in the United States, because that's where I think the true connection lies. We stole their land, and now the Palestinians are having their land stolen by Israel, supported by our government with impunity, committing a genocide. Okay? We need to, stop material support in any way of Israel, stop sending them money, stop sending them weapons. Okay? Our elected representative, excuse me, thank you. But yeah, we are so woefully insufficient in this area. Our district is sending bombs in our name to kill women and children in Palestine and now Lebanon. Okay, so I'm asking our elected representative to commit to 3 things: a permanent ceasefire in Palestine and in Lebanon. Okay, 2, prohibiting the export of more weapons to Israel, and 3, reinstate funding for the United Nations Relief Works Agency.
Thank you. Honestly, if I thought that voting for Justin Phillip would end the war in the Middle East, I would vote for him. If one person could do that. It is something that troubles me every day. And yes, I took a vote on a larger package that the Republicans put in, defunding the UN refugee program. But we have also worked to make sure it is funded through next year. We're working to make sure that that appropriation happens next year. So, look, I believe Israel has the right to exist and that Palestine has the right to be an independent state and live safely and securely. I think that any war crimes that happen should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. What's happening in the West Bank with the settlers, absolutely wrong, and I denounce that. I do believe that Israel has a right to defend itself from the missiles that are being sent there. There are a whole lot of people, whether it's Netanyahu, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Islamic Jihad, that really don't care how many people are killed. So what I believe is that we should allow and support Israel to defend itself and put barriers on what other money we send.
All right. I appreciate audience participation, but we've got a lot of questions, and not all the candidates have had a chance to answer all of them yet. I think Monique is next.
Well, Dan Ballin described very well what's at stake: international security, national security. Let's keep this simple. You know, we've all traveled by air. When the cabin pressure's low, you put your oxygen mask on before you put your child's mask on, because if you pass out, you can't help anyone, right? The world relies on the compassion and generosity of the United States of America. When we lose our country, the world goes into the chaos, the continued chaos that it's in. Our current representative failed to vote against anti-Semitism, failed to stand with Israel, and I mean, what is an ally if you're not there in their hour of need? I don't believe in blank checks. I believe, like I said, put your oxygen mask on and then get busy helping those in need. We stand with our allies. Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East, a very dangerous place, and it's, let's just hope that they'd be there for us when our border's attacked, as it is actually being invaded right now.
All right, and then Justin, you'll take this next question.
Well, I think I had a little more time to say. Am I out? Okay.
Okay. This next question is about climate change. Climate change is making natural disasters, hurricanes, wildfires, and droughts worse. If voters send you to Congress, what policies would you support that directly address the causes of climate change?
Well, you may not be aware of this, but one of the biggest polluters in the world is the United States military, okay? Do we think what is happening over in Palestine is good for the environment? Okay, they're blowing things up, they're releasing toxic gases, they're poisoning their water wells. All right, this all comes home here, okay? This is a shared planet. We all share this earth together. And right now, we spend 62% of all of our discretionary spending on militarism and war. That leaves less than $2 out of every 5 for everything else to address climate change, to work on housing, to address education, to invest in community programs. We need to reallocate those dollars and bring them home, not just for climate change, but for the rest of our national security.
Thank you very much. This is the issue for our age and for our time. I'm very, very proud to have followed Congressman Peter DeFazio, who helped write the IAJA, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, that was the largest investment in climate resilience and green energy that we have ever had in this country. I want to continue doing those things to make sure that we move away from fossil fuels as quickly as possible. And also, in terms of natural disasters, what we're seeing in Florida and Georgia and North Carolina, hurricanes that are so big because the ocean is hotter, we cannot ignore this. And so I have sponsored a bill to make FEMA a cabinet-level office as opposed to being under Homeland Security. I also want to make sure that we're funding FEMA. 20,000 out of their 25,000 employees are temporary because we used to have natural disasters just every once in a while. We need to make that a cabinet-level office and invest and make sure that we're not allowing conspiracy theories to get in the way of them doing their job.
There's no doubt that human beings are having a significant effect on planet Earth, and we need to be responsible and respectful of our God-given resources. There's a lot of things we could be doing to obviously be cleaning up as we go. One would be to hold other countries accountable too. China's right there with the Department of Defense. And so we can't just be alone like the Who's in Dr. Seuss, just fighting, providing all the leadership for climate, being responsible and reducing climate change, and just foisting that expense on everyday Americans who are ultimately the ratepayers of proposals that are in development and don't work. Our elected representative here did not join the biggest, most transformative bill to save our forests, which is the forests of the Pacific Northwest are the most, one of the most important organisms that purifies air naturally. And yet, Congresswoman Hoyle voted against the Fix Our Forests Act that was a bipartisan bill to start addressing the prevention of wildfires in a meaningful way, bringing
Ms. Despain,
tribes
you
and
are out of
others
time.
together. She voted against that bipartisan bill.
All right.
Extreme weather events, hurricanes, heat waves, heavy rainfall, devastating floods and wildfires, sea level rise, coastal erosion, displacement of communities, ecosystem disruption, agricultural impacts affecting food security. The economic costs are coming. The world has delayed action for too long. We are on the Titanic with all the threats we are facing, and the first who are going to suffer the most and die are the poorest. And that is why my market-driven civilian conservation core solution is critical. The CCC will go to work implementing green energy along with its other work. The other important solution is the International City of Peace in the heart of Israel. We need to end all our wars, stop the wasteful spending, and appropriately face the climate change threat together and reduce the national debts of all the nations.
And Ms. Hoyle, you'll take this next question first. All right. Over the last few years, many communities in this district have struggled with overdoses, especially fentanyl. If you are reelected, or if voters send you to Congress, how would you work to address the fentanyl crisis in your district?
So first of all, I will tell you, there is not one person in this room that hasn't been touched by addiction in some way. And I have at least 12 friends, grandparents or parents who have lost children or spouses to fentanyl. Now, the way that fentanyl is coming over is, you know, as Ms. Despain said, through the border, but by people who come over legally. And what we need, I went down to the border in my official capacity, not a photo op, so that I could talk to Border Patrol agents to ask them what they need. And what they said was they needed funding. They are using technology that is 10 years old, while the cartels have the latest technology on how to get these drugs across. So I've supported the bipartisan Dignity Act in the House that would put money into border security and also improve our outdated immigration system. I would have supported the bill that James Langford, the most conservative person in the Senate, put forward, but Donald Trump said don't send it, so because it would help Biden in his campaign. So I look forward to going back and doing something about it.
And Ms. Despain, you'll be next.
Well, here you go again talking about the Senate bill when you didn't pass the House bill that secured the border and got that updated equipment back online that your current administration stopped. When I went to the border to see if what the lies you were telling were true or not, it wasn't a photo op. I talked to law enforcement, I talked to sheriffs, I saw the report submitted to the Biden-Harris administration from the 3,000 sheriffs in the United States that opposed that Senate bill, because that was not a border security bill. That just codified your Dignity Act, codifies that we pay $150 billion a year to process in, arrest, and release illegal immigrants into our country. And one of the most egregious offenses of all that is our immigration system. There's national security. It's really clear that there's value in having a veteran with a national security background representing us, because national security is paramount and it's separate from immigration law. My mother was an immigrant. Everyone in here is probably an immigrant. I mean, it's just irresponsible for you to conflate those two, and except for you. I'm sorry. Except for you.
All right.
But you have an interest in national security, obviously. So,
Ms. Despain, you are out of time. All right. Dan, if you could answer.
The underlying issues of addiction is multifaceted, but my opponents are going to focus on the border. As far as the border goes and immigration, give the border back to the Apache. First, giving the border back to the Apaches will alleviate the burden of racism and migration on U.S. politicians and American public. Americans won't have to worry about being racist at the border with migrants. The Apache can deal with it. Second, it helps rectify racism against Apaches. My bold proposal is to begin the process of returning land to the Apache people. This is not just about land. It's about addressing past injustices and honoring the Apache Nation's rightful place and dignity. Third, Apaches can make pacts with neighboring tribes to secure the border. This will help end generations of the worst imaginable unemployment. Fourth, poor investment in social assistance programs on reservations can be diverted towards Apaches defending the border. And the Dreamers need to stay in America. As for the rest of immigration, an Ellis Island-style immigration process sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. The addiction issue is multifaceted. It's interesting this has turned into a discussion on just the border, though. I think investing in our kids and investing in our society and having a society where, you know, the wealth isn't continually sucked up by the top 1 or 2% in our nation, leaving the rest of us to struggle and survive. And I think a lot of that is what contributes to addiction in this country, people trying to cope. A lot of folks on the street, a lot of times they encounter substance abuse issues after they're on the street as a coping mechanism. So we need to do more to help people not fall through the cracks of society. But if we want to talk about the border real quick, I will say I was a little disappointed to see that Val Hoyle supported, I think, House Resolution 1210, which was put forth by one of the most radical Republicans in Congress, a gentleman from Louisiana who voted to, or tried to, not certify the results of the last election. And he denounced the Biden border crisis. Val Hoyle was one of 15 Democrats to sign on to that. I don't know how you can consider yourself a progressive and a member of the Progressive Caucus and sign on to that.
Okay. And Ms. Despain will take the next question first. Many people in your district are struggling with the cost of living, groceries, housing, and energy prices. Are there policies that you support that might offer some relief to people struggling to afford the basics in your district?
Yes, absolutely, they're struggling. Most people in the district really are struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck, one step away from perhaps homelessness. This is connected to the border. The addiction is connected to the border. Fentanyl is not sprouting along the sides of I-5. It's coming in over our unsecure border, and it's causing addiction, desperation, depression, and death. And these things are costing money. Our community resources are depleted, and government spending is rampant and causing inflation that is just continuing to go up and crushing every level of young people, people on fixed incomes. Inflation does, when I'm talking to people, they're not seeing any relief. No relief at all. You go to the store now, you see how much gas, milk, coffee, anything that you need, it's not going down. If it is, glad that you're experiencing that, but that's not what I'm hearing across the district, and it's from runaway government spending. It's from paying for all the border security. The good Americans in Florida are not having their needs met by FEMA because FEMA is depleted by the processing of immigrants into this country.
All right, Dan, if you who's next?
This is about the economy. My solution for stabilizing our economy begins with the homeless, the impoverished, the too many who are incarcerated. Reinvest America's money from just keeping people alive as beggars. My solution is a massive market-driven civilian conservation corps. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "True compassion is more than flinging a coin at a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring." Also, this market-driven civilian conservation corps can also put to work the millions of students who are part of that $1.7 trillion student debt who don't have stable work, instead of just clearing out that debt. Our debt and deficit are out of control. We're facing a social security system collapse. Our debt is $35 trillion and climbing fast. We're approaching 1/10 of a quadrillion dollars in debt. Democrats want a democracy, Republicans want a theocracy, but it's more like we have an idiocracy. We are living with the failure of governance.
Next. Oh, reread the question? Yeah.
Please.
Sorry, many people in your district are struggling with the cost of living, groceries, housing, and energy. Are there policies that you support that might offer some relief to people struggling to afford the basics in this district?
Yes, I think we should not be dismissive of the rising cost of goods, especially with wages that are stagnant. I think that would be unwise. Don't believe the Democratic rhetoric coming from the Biden administration. If you talk to people on the street, they are suffering. I have to agree with Monique on this. Yeah, I mean, we can do a lot more for folks. Okay, we need to stop giving giveaways to the biggest corporations. Let's look at Measure 118 right now, which is would be the Oregon rebate. I support the Oregon rebate. That would be $1,600 back to every Oregonian every year with a tax on corporations. And don't believe the corporations' hype. You'll see tons of commercials. They're going to put like an organic farmer on TV to try to convince you it's a bad idea. If corporations are spending that much money to defeat a measure, it's a pretty good indication it's a good measure.
So in terms of improving the economy, I agree with Mr. Phillip that, yes, wages have been stagnant over the past 40 years as unions have been undermined, and we have now 73% of Americans support the labor movement because that's how we fight for better wages, hours, and working conditions. I believe that for the 50% of jobs that need more than a high school degree and less than a college degree, we need to to let schools teach certifications, make sure that young people know about our apprenticeship programs. Union apprenticeship programs pay for them themselves, and these jobs are available and they pay well, but we don't have people to fill them. We also need more housing for our workforce. And finally, I've been working on the 8,000 jobs that we will bring to the South Coast with the expansion of the Port of Coos Bay Intermodal Project, bringing containers to rail, taking diesel trucks off the road, and it will be operated by green energy. So those are 3 things. I have a whole lot more ideas. Happy to talk to you about that some other time.
All right, this is our final question, and Monique Despain will take this last question. The last few years, we've seen more polarization, more discord, and less legislation coming out of Congress. If voters send you to Washington, how will you work with other parties, with other caucuses, to bring results back to Oregon?
Thank you. Great question. Because that's what's important, that we start getting the work of the people done. I've been bringing people in conflict together as an attorney, as a officer in the military, my whole career, and as a mother of twins. You know, people in conflict have to have discussions and still come to a resolution, and that's what I've been doing. Right now, we have a congresswoman who ranks as one of the least bipartisan congresspeople in the bottom quarter of the 435 there, as indicated by that Fix Our Forest Act. 55 Democrats, all the Republicans, even Nancy Pelosi supported it, but not our extreme left congresswoman. So I have been working with people to get things done. I will be an advocate, an independent voice for Oregon, not a party stamp that just follows orders with the group, but sticking up for Oregon and building consensus and finding the things that we can all we all have common interest in, like public safety, the economy. Even this group here we all understand that the people of the 4th District are hurting economically. I'll work with anyone in Congress, either president, to get the work of the people of Oregon done.
Dan?
Look, the political gridlock is endangering our country, but it's about accountability and transparency, and that's what I'm about. I'm a federal whistleblower who's retaliated against in a corruption case that involved abuses of employees on an impoverished Indian reservation. I knew the risks. Corrupt and abusive people intimidate people into following their bad leadership for fear of losing their necessities of life. Hoyle cannot hold anyone accountable, especially Donald Trump. She comes with too much baggage with the racial discrimination cases under her leadership and being too close for comfort to the corruption of LaMota. Despain can't hold anyone accountable because she can't even hold Donald Trump accountable. It is possible Trump will be the next president. To hold Donald Trump accountable, I will hire Stormy Daniels to be on my congressional staff if I have to. I'll take it a step further. I'll hold Donald Trump accountable to the Lord God Almighty himself in front of the world, since the religious right appears unable to hold him accountable.
All right. So I'm glad. Thanks for the comedic relief. So yes, I'm glad that Val would vote for me if I could stop the genocide. I'll tell you, I can't do it alone. This Congressional District 4 has an opportunity to do something historic, and that is send the first minor party candidate to Congress. What that would look like, we won't know until I go, right? But I can tell you, you would have one less person in Congress being complicit in a genocide. You would have one less person in Congress working for a party owned and operated, literally owned and operated by billionaires and corporations. Do we really think that these people from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party accept donations from lobbyists and corporations who expect nothing in return? Are we that naive? We're just going to keep getting more of the same. We're just going to keep getting more of the same of choosing between red genocide and blue genocide. Okay, that's where this two-party system has gotten us. It's gotten us to the point where you have to choose a president choosing between a convicted felon and a person actively enabling a genocide.
All right, thank you.
So the question was about bipartisanship, and that is something that I have worked on my entire career. Again, I came from labor. I had a 25-year private sector business career. And in Congress, one of the least productive Congresses, remember, it took us 6 days to elect a speaker. We voted 15 times, and then the Republican caucus threw Kevin McCarthy out because he wasn't compliant enough. So in that time, when so little has gotten done, I've managed to pass 5 bills into law, each and every one bipartisan. I've been able to bring $86 million back to this district on things that matter, on infrastructure, on communications. And yes, I voted no on the Fix My Forest Act, our Forest Act, because it didn't include what I demanded, which was the permanent increase of wages for our wildland firefighters, without which we lose 30 to 50% of our wildland firefighters right before the next wildfire season. I also asked that the functions that were in that bill be funded, and I will fight to make sure we get this done before the end of the lame duck session. Thank you.
And now we'll go to our closing statements. We'll do it in the same order that we did our opening statements. So Dan Ballin will go first, followed by Justin Phillip, Val Hoyle, and then we'll close out with Monique Despain. Thank you.
So I have a joke for you, and it goes along with my neck tattoo. I have a neck tattoo of the end of the trail. A preacher trained his horse to go when he said, "Thank God," and to stop when he said, "Amen." The preacher mounted the horse and said, "Thank God," and went for a ride. When he wanted to stop for lunch, he said, "Amen." After lunch, he got back on his horse and said, "Thank God," and took off again. The horse started going toward the edge of a cliff. The preacher got excited and said, "Whoa, whoa." Then he remembered and said, "Amen," and the horse stopped at the edge of the cliff. The preacher was so relieved and grateful. He looked up to heaven and said, "Thank God." Voting Despain or Hoyle and saying "thank God" will only run us off that cliff. So vote Dan Ballin in this election to save us from all the threats we are facing.
Thank you. Running this campaign, I've learned a lot and have faced a lot of challenges. Not only do I not have the money to compete with these folks, but recently Meta has shut down and censored my Instagram account and Facebook account. Those have been taken down inexplicably. So this campaign is a lot about speaking up for the unheard that currently do not have a voice in Congress. So that's why I'm bringing up Palestine. That's why I'm bringing up the unhoused. James Baldwin once said, "I cannot believe what you say because I see what you do." And while the words of sympathy from a representative are good to hear, we need to see concrete action and a shift in policy. The U.S. campaign for Palestinian rights gave our elected representative a D. Okay, she's not doing her job as far as that goes. Okay, exporting war and murder is not what we want our elected representative to do, and that's what's happening in your name right now as a congressional district. So I'm asking you to take a change of course, to do something bold, to do something different, to vote for the Green Party, to vote for Justin Phillip. The only means that I have of reaching the public right now is pretty much my website, so please check that out, justinforcongress.org. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for being here today, and I want to reiterate what I said in the beginning, which is I am very glad that all of the candidates were able to be here. The things that I think we need to do to protect our democracy, which is really on the ballot on November 5th, is to overturn Citizens United, to have national redistricting reform, to have ranked choice voting, and to make sure that all voices can be heard, to make sure that we allow people to vote and we don't have the kind of voter suppression that we're seeing across the country. It has been my greatest honor to be your Congresswoman, and I would be honored to serve another 2 terms. Thank you very much for being here today, and I look forward to speaking with you.
We can do so much better. We have a unique opportunity in this election. We have the chance to stand together, regardless of party, to change the cycle of dysfunction and partisan politics in Washington, D.C. I'm not a career politician. I'm a retired Air Force colonel in JAG and a proud and very concerned mother of 2 young men. I have been taking tough challenges and fighting to win my whole life. And I'm here to fight for Oregon, for our kids, and for all of us. For all of us. We don't need another party rubber stamp who puts campaign donors above all of us, regular voters. Why would you elect a liar under federal investigation when you have a much better choice? What our district needs is an independent, bipartisan voice. I will work with anyone from any party to deliver results for Oregon. My entire career, I've brought people together to solve serious issues and deliver results, and I'll bring that same approach to Congress. Let's do this. Let's start solving some of these problems. I'd be honored to earn your vote and get to work and produce results for the 4th District. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, candidates. Thank you to our KLCC listeners and to the audience here at Wow Hall today. I'm your moderator, Rebecca Hanson-White. And yeah, thank you very much.
One more time for our moderator and our candidates. Thank you all so much. This has been our October 11th, 2024 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. This coming Tuesday, October 15th, the Lane Transit District is hosting its inaugural State of the District. And I see CEO Jameson Otten out there in the crowd today. Thank you, Jameson, for your support. Jameson will be joined by transportation and community partners like the Lane Council of Governments, Cascadia Mobility, the Springfield and Eugene Area Chambers of Commerce, Peace Health, area school districts. It'll be a great event. City Club is back next Friday for our final election-related program of the season. That's a debate on ranked choice voting. You heard a little bit about that today. Come back next week, hear about the ballot measure that you'll be voting on in November. Thank you all for joining us.